Well, aloha everyone. Aloha kakahiaka. I'm glad you're all here today. We have a very special show, and we're going to see how it's kind of a we're going to see how it's going to work out. But here's what the lineup is for today. So today is let me back up here. So today is an Aloha for Lahaina show. We've never done anything like this before because well, there's nothing has ever happened like this before. The goal of today is to have a place for us to have a discussion, a place for you to be a part of it, a place for everyone to share, a place for all of us to connect, a place for all of us to for sharing our sorrows, sharing our hopes, and sharing our dreams. And that's what this show today is all about. Everyone is welcome. I want everyone to have a chance to kind of share whatever that they'd like to share, ask whatever that they'd like to ask, whatever you'd like it to be. That's what the show is for today. The first of all, e como mai means welcome, welcome everyone. I think we're gonna really kind of let you drive the show really, but in lieu of that, I want to have a little bit of a structure here. So I have some some of the latest Maui news that I've been able to pull over the past week. I want to talk about our Maui Ohana, which is the people that we know, maybe folks that we've lost, folks that we've heard, stories that we have about the people of Maui, our Maui Ohana. A little bit of a chat about what caused it. I think that's pretty much well known these days, but a little chat about that, how you can help. A lot of you have asked about that. Talk about those sources. And really, the whole point is I really want to let this go in the way that you'd like to go. So if you got any questions, pop them in the comments, questions, comments, sharings, anything you'd like to do, pop it in the comments so we could talk about these things and go about there. So let's get to our friends over here. And Dylan, let me bring Dylan over here. So I'm really extraordinarily happy that Heidi, you're able to make it. We were really worried about you. Had a lot of people asking about you, and so we're really glad to hear. I don't even want to. I don't think I could even ask, "How are you doing, Heidi?" But please, Heidi, give us an update on how you're feeling, where you're at, how things are coming along over there.
We're just, I mean, I can't explain the range of emotions. I mean, words just can't describe. I'm grieving for my community and neighbors and all the people that perished in the fire and are still missing right now. And there's also a joy to be alive, and so many people lost everything, but they're alive. And every time you reach out to somebody and know that they're alive, I mean, that's a great day. So this tragedy, it's just unimaginable. I was in West Maui at the time. I live about 4 miles north of where the fires were. And it's just been a really rough week. I mean, the communications were down, cell phone service, our power was out for 5 days. It's just been a really tough time, and it's so heartbreaking to see these pictures and see some of the devastation in person too. And I just can't imagine the horrors that people went through, the survivors that escaped from this.
Yeah, thanks, Heidi. I mean, to say it's unimaginable is to say the least of it. I just want to kind of bring in a few folks over here that have already started. Marvin, thank you, Marvin, sending love and prayers to you all in a care package. Thank you, Marvin. We so appreciate that. From Lashane, aloha from Big Island Hilo side. Thank you, Lashane, for coming in. We really appreciate it. And yeah, Nathan John Bunn of the Woods. I'm so heartbroken for y'all. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that, and thank you for sharing. Paul's got a quick question. What's the effective charity you contribute to? Paul, I'll post a link in the comments. I've found this is the link that was put up by the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, HEMA. It's a catch-all. The numbers, the ones that come up all the time, again and again and again, is the the Hawaii Community Foundation Maui Strong Fund is a big one. And the other one, of course, is the Hawaii Red Cross. Those links are in that document. Just pull that guy up, and we'll be able to kind of to do that. So we're getting a lot of really good comments for everybody. Thank you, Judy. Aloha. Thank you for talking to us about this today. Yeah, it's a really big deal. I want to catch everyone's some people what are saying over here. Yeah, wish you could come over here and help as well. It would be great. And Aloha Supernova says, Heidi, if you know anybody needing mercy housing, my place in Kona is immediately available until the end of September at no charge. Of course, thinking of you. Thank you, Aloha Supernova. We really appreciate this. Dylan, why don't you kind of why don't you kind of share what's the week been like for you? What have you been kind of, you shared an incredible. Well, why don't you go ahead and share whatever you feel like sharing, Dylan?
Yeah, so it's been. I mean, it's weird because it hits us personally because we have so many connections on Maui, but when you're disconnected by water, there's a lot of life that just goes on, right? I mean, there's a lot of people here that you go to the beach and there's people at the beach, and you have all this tragedy in one part of the state and another part of it where it's very disconnected. So I've been trying to just remind people that there's a whole different world going on over in Maui, and our real estate team was impacted directly. I have one of my agents that lived in Lahaina that lost her home. She and her 6 kids left with the clothes on their back. They had nothing. They barely made it out, and so we've been marshaling resources to help her personally. And in addition to everybody else, that is, if there's a bright side to this, is there's been an amazing outpouring of support and people coming together, and just our networks, folks from this show that have reached out and asked what they can do to help. And so we've done our best to direct them to places that we trust, where we think that it's going to do the most good. But there are a lot of options out there, and so really don't listen to us on what we think where you should send your money. I mean, there's a lot of good resources out there, and organizations that are doing amazing things at every different level. I mean, from the government level to nonprofits, all the way down to just communities who are organizing, and people bringing boats over to deliver goods when the roads were closed and things like that. So there's a lot of light that the community and the people have shown when something like this happens, and how we come together. And as we always talk about, that's one of the special things about Hawaii. And I'm not saying that other communities don't do it. I just know that I've had people from Southern California who have said, it's not like that. When there's a wildfire in Southern California, I mean, it's tragic, but you don't see people from neighboring communities or other places in the world, contributing and caring at the same level. And so that's something that we're definitely blessed for here in Hawaii.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. That's well said. It is there. Not to say there's a silver lining, but these kind of things are clearly everywhere. But I do believe more so in Hawaii. Do bring out the best in people, the best of humanity, and some incredible stories. Ashliey, what about you? What's been your takeaway from the past week? How have things been on your side?
I think Dylan said it. There's a lot, that you feel, and so many people in the community, and you have so many memories, there on Front Street and in Lahaina, and yet you're disconnected, by water. And so life in a weird way continues, and yet you're just heavy-hearted at the same time. You almost feel bad that you're not there. It's like you're feeling it, and it's in your community, and it's separate at the same time. But there's just been, a lot of conspiracies that go on in tragedy like this to try to make sense of things. And, I think we have, living here, a bit more insight, of course, of what's happening, body counts. And I think a good point of the discussion to have, today, and just in the community in general, is, how do people move forward? And, right now it's an adrenaline dump, right? Everyone's in this fight or flight mode and just trying to get their bearings. And, it's great that people can find temporary housing in these shelters or stay with people, but where do they find their next, forever home? And what do they do with their land and their houses? And, I know a topic of discussion is the amount of asbestos and such in the land and it hasn't come out yet in news and community, but I know some people who are boots on the ground there, at state level, and there is discussions that people can't go back there. They can't rebuild for, 10, 15 years, potentially, or at least 10 years, I think, because the amount of asbestos and chemicals from all these really old structures, because a big question that people have is like, how did this catch on fire so quickly? And I think a lot of the missing bit of information you hear on the news a lot is that we had a hurricane off the coast. And yeah, it's weird that the winds hit Maui specifically so aggressively and not Big Island, because you would normally think that they would hit Big Island and then Maui. And you had this weird tunnel of wind just, targeting Maui. So it did increase the brush fire exponentially with these high winds and power lines down, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the combination of misinformation that's happening there, and then, to Dylan's point and stuff like that, how are people going to rebuild in their community? And at the same time, are they even going to be able to? Are they even going to be allowed to? I have a little bit more insight on that, but I'll wait until later because I know there's probably a lot to unravel there.
There's a lot to unravel. Yeah. And I got Michael, I've got your question. Michael's essentially asking, how does a fire spread quickly? Let's talk about that later when we have that part of the discussion, and kind of move on. You know what? Why don't we do this really quick just to kind of give us some kind of a grounding over here? I'm going to go over some quick bullet points really fast of the news. I just want to give everybody some quick updates. I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to bring up Governor Josh Green, who actually has done to me in my world, seems to be has done a really good job. Let me do this. He's done a really good job. He's using Instagram, and so in a sense, I'm going to use him right now as an update. And let's see how this goes.
Everyone, day 9.
Can you guys hear that?
The crisis on Maui. We have 111 people that we've lost, and 45% now of the territory has been covered. There are now 41 rescue dogs and 270 personnel from Red Cross working this incredible challenge, plus search and rescue 195 people. We're ramping up every day. We're now at 494 people from FEMA. Been constantly on with Washington and the White House talking about our crisis, but now we've got 950 people in hotel rooms. 414 hotel rooms are filling for those people, and 500 people housed by Airbnb. The recovery's ongoing. If you need support, come here. And tomorrow night, I will give a statewide address to share the bigger picture. Aloha.
Okay, so there's your quick update. That came in, I believe, just if not today, it came in yesterday. So that is fairly fresh. Let me go through a couple of slides I got over here. Again, just to give us all kind of a grounding and get us all on the same page here. So so far, and this is, I think I finished this slide deck yesterday. So 111 fatalities. I think the sad 111 fatalities of those identified. All of them are over the age of 70. So that's I got to try to present the facts here without kind of trying to color it as best I can. The banyan tree, interestingly enough, I think there's going to be an amazing story of the banyan tree. It seems to be still alive, and they are moving forward to keep the banyan tree alive and to save it. And that would be, I think, an absolutely remarkable symbol. I think the banyan tree can become the symbol of life and rebirth, and kind of a phoenix, a rising phoenix from the ashes story. So I'm really kind of looking at that. I thought I would add in some real estate, because this is a real estate show. Some interesting parts. The governor is seeking a moratorium on property sales in Lahaina. Would be interesting to kind of see what you all kind of think about that, how that all goes. And the Honolulu has also suspended the short-term vacation rental restrictions. Now, the short-term vacation rental was a minimum of 30 days. That has now been suspended to open up and make housing available. And of course, we're right around the corner now. It's time for the blame games to begin. There's a lot going on. The Maui emergency chief has resigned. There's a state water official who was moved to another department. However, the governor has said that the state will not pursue a criminal probe of the Maui fire. That is a quick update. on the news. I just want to get everybody kind of on the same page about that. A couple of comments I wanted to pop in over here that have come in from Pam. So sad. My daughter lives in Honolulu. Her co-worker's brother lost everything, and another friend's sister also lost her home. Donate to them and the Foundation Maui Strong. Sending so much aloha and prayers. Profile pic was in Lahaina last year. My first visit to Maui. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that, Pam. Yeah, and he's been good. Yeah, he is an ER doc. I think that kind of gives him I think he's got an edge on the. He's able to kind of compassionately share. Kind of what's the way that he's got. There's a sense of compassion to it. Why don't we talk about it? If let's just to kind of move to kind of topics here. I would want to talk about folks that family that we know, family folks that we. Stories of folks that we have. I do want to talk a bit about the. Let me put up this slide so we can all kind of see it. I do want to talk about our Maui ohana. For example, I know that we were one of my a business associate of mine they had a retail store in Lahaina. In fact, they were in Lahaina since 1959, since statehood, and they were one of the first companies to operate out of Lahaina. So they've been there forever. Their retail store was burned to the ground, gone completely. And the immediate thing was like, okay, what about all the employees? And it was really kind of a hair raising moment, because they had accounted for everybody except two. And boy, it was things were really a high level of anxiety and emotion. Thankfully, the two were found. Those two are fine. We're glad, of course, to know that our Heidi is good. That is a good part about it here. Anybody else want to share anything about those that families or friends that they've known, that they've heard some stories about that anybody wants to share? You guys just want to just jump right in, go do the best that whoever wants to jump in, just go ahead. Okay. All right. So we'll move on. So I got a thing here from Joseph. For those on Oahu, if you want to donate items to Maui, save time and money by shopping at Costco, buy everything there and leave it with them. No need to haul to drop off locations. Does anybody know anything about this? Does Costco have a program where you can buy at Costco and have it shipped to Maui? I was not aware of that.
Yeah, Costco has bins at the end of the checkout lines where you can just they have lists of items, but I think last I've heard, they're asking they don't need more items. They don't need more supplies. They're having a leadership issue.
Oop.
And so
they're having a leadership issue?
They don't need any more supplies at this point. They have an abundance. They're having a leadership issue and distribution of the supplies and how to get them to the people and where they're going to go. So I think most things, why unfortunately there's, logistics, a lack of logistics and planning and how to do things. So I think they got to iron out some of those kinks before they start taking on even more supplies.
It's a good intent. Hopefully they can get that squared away. Heidi, go ahead.
These people that just lost their homes, I mean, they don't have anything. They don't need a whole bunch of clothes right now. It seems, I mean, from being in West Maui, I left there a couple days ago, but I was there all last week and through the weekend. I was really encouraged to see that the community is really rallying together and people are able to get basic needs met, like food and water and clothing. Connectivity has been probably the most stressful thing. They did install some Starlink hotspots so people can get Wi-Fi in some places. I mean, people are going to need help for a really long time. I mean, they've lost their businesses, their schools. But yeah, I would encourage people to donate to a reputable foundation or charity to benefit Maui instead of sending stuff right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting part, right? Because in sending stuff, it's like you really don't know what is kind of needed at that time. I'm going to repost the link I posted earlier, gang. This is the definitive link that was posted by the Hawaii Emergency Management. It's really a go-to link for everything. It's got links in there to places that reputable places to donate to. Again, the two that come up was the Hawaii Community Foundation, Maui Strong Fund, and the Hawaii Red Cross. There are others, but those are two that keep coming up again and again. Heidi, you thankfully you sent me a couple of photos, and if I wanted to bring one up that really I don't know if you want to kind of share about it. This one over here, this photo is pretty dramatic. You're at the end of what looks like a normal street, and here is the fire kind of right ahead of you. You took this photo, right?
Yeah. So this was when my husband and I drove into Lahaina. I mean, we thought this was Wednesday night. I mean, we thought the fire was over. The main fire was actually over, and they were evacuating people out of Lahaina. I mean, they immediately evacuated all the visitors just to get less people, to ensure there were less people on West Maui, so the residents could be taken care of. And just turned down the street briefly and then turned around because it didn't look like a good place to drive. And what you're seeing burn there, that's a building, an apartment building that was just completed less than a year ago. And it was affordable rental housing. And it's just so tragic because Maui already had a housing shortage, and now all these places are gone. I mean, I think the important thing for people to know is the areas that burned, I mean, these were where working people lived. I mean, teachers, lifeguards, firemen, people that worked in the restaurants, worked in the resorts, small businesses. It was a very densely populated residential area. And it's just, that makes it even more tragic.
Yeah, by the way, folks, if you've just joined us, this is a sharing. What we're really here to do is to kind of share and to heal and to have everyone a chance to ask their questions, to have a chance for everyone to share what they're going through, really to kind of bring everybody together in a healing effort. So if you got some comments, you have some questions, please share. Please do share. We've had a bunch of sharings already, and I want to encourage everyone to please make this work for you, as well as we're trying to make it work for us. Heidi, from what you're saying, I think the one, Dylan, go ahead. I hear your mic on. Go.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to expand on something that Heidi mentioned, right, about housing. And one of the comments earlier, which greatly appreciated about offering housing, is this is going to be a big effort going forward, that if you really want to help, not everybody has this resource, but one of the things that's being compiled on Maui, and the Realtor Association is actually helping facilitate this, is connecting up families that need housing with people who have available housing, whether it is a house, a condo, a room in your home, whatever it is. They're building a database, and I've already signed up for it, where you can say, is it a room? How many people can you house? Do you expect payment? What's the time frame? And this is a thing that's going to be ongoing. Like Heidi said, there was already a housing shortage, and we're talking about thousands of homes lost, potentially 10,000 people displaced. They're going to have to go someplace, and that may mean moving off of Maui to one of the neighbor islands. So this is going to be a statewide effort, not just on Maui, because I'm hearing from my friends on the ground there that, the neighborhoods are packed, right? You go to a regular neighborhood and there's tons of cars, there's, multiple families staying in houses. I mean, people are taking care of their community, but that's a short term, you have to deal with it in the short term. That's not a long-term solution. And so that's something that all of us can contribute to and consider. If you have a vacation rental, take it out of the vacation rental pool and make it a long-term, rental house for somebody that needs it, because there's going to be a large amount of people in the coming months that are going to have to relocate. Because like we said, I mean, it's going to be years before Lahaina is rebuilt to any type of capacity that it was at previously. Just from I don't even think it's a resources or desire standpoint. It's just a ability to rebuild, right? We don't have, construction companies are already full. I mean, construction materials are already limited. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that, in addition to any of the environmental cleanup stuff that's got to happen, which hasn't even started yet. I mean, where are we putting all this stuff, right? All the burnt cars, all of the leftover building materials. I mean, this is all stuff that is going to take a really long time to sort out. And in the meantime, we got to house people.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ashliey.
I think, again, the time that it's going to take to do this is way longer than people anticipate. It's such a hazmat. They're stating people shouldn't even be on the ground. They shouldn't be inhaling it. The amount of asbestos and toxic chemicals from these old paint and structures and canic ceilings and all of this is all dust and fine, particle material. You shouldn't even be at the ground. And it needs to be toxic hazard waste removal at this point. And all of those people that are there, boots on the ground, helping with the, current state of their neighborhoods and stuff like that. It's just, I'm concerned about long-term health effects as well from the people who inhaled all of that in the fire, not just by the fire and smoke, but of those chemicals and the people that are there now, going through the rubble and the debris. And I think that needs to be consideration. They were saying that in order to even make this land buildable again, that they're going to have to go 15 feet deep to remove the soil from the chemicals that have absorbed into the ground, which would be, at sea level. You'd already be hitting the water table. Sorry, not at sea level, but you'd already be hitting the water table. So will this land even be buildable again? I think is an important question to ask,
Man, there are far more questions than we have answers for, and that is, that's why that's absolutely remarkable. This is the topic I think that we're on now, is that, what if, Lahaina is no more. This was an amazing, to me, this photo was really a mind-blowing photo to see here. You've got this is from the Governor Josh Green's office, and you've got, what was remarkable here is you've got cars that were literally abandoned with their doors opened, and presumably water right next door. It's an incredible photo. But I think what's really blowing me away, and this is that I think one of the, you all mentioned this idea that we are separated by water 100 miles or so, at least on Oahu, and so there is a sense that you've got this conflicting sort of feelings that on one hand, you're like, oh my God, this is so horrible. But on the other hand, your immediate, your sort of circle of life, your radius is completely unaffected. But yet at the same time, there's incredible tragedies just around the corner, but yet you're separated by ocean. So there's an interesting conflict of emotions on there. I want to bring out a couple of comments that were brought up. I posted Heather's. Thank you, Heather. Lahaina and West Maui is still going to need help for a long time. I think this is, I was talking to some friends about this. This is absolutely a 9/11 level event in Hawaii, and 9/11 not just in the destruction level, but in the. I think this is. We haven't even started to go into the phase to understand how this is going to change Hawaii, our culture, our whole sense of community. I hope for the better. I mean, our whole sense of community, the whole repair, this is going to be there, like you said, for a long time. There's going to be a lot of, I think, I sense that there's going to be a significant shift in Hawaii that we've really never seen before, and it's just beginning. We're still at the shock. I mean, at the 9/11, we're still got smoldering buildings. There hasn't been like a massive shift yet for air travel or security travel, all these sort of changes that occurred as a result of 9/11. I don't know what the changes are going to be in Hawaii, but I know that they're going to be significant. This is a 9/11 level event. I think things are going to happen that change that we can't even possibly sort of imagine how, but I think it's coming. A couple more comments over here. I want to bring up Judy. Thank you, Judy. Watched an interview with the owner of Ululani's. It's a small family-owned business. They lost 2 shave ice stores in their warehouse, but all the owner cares about is his employees, and he's given them financial support and counseling. Now I like Ululani's even more than I already did. Yeah, I mean, this is you are gonna see the best of Hawaii. There was another story I caught the other day. Maui Divers Jewelry, they did an incredible thing. They gave every single penny of sales over the course of several days. I don't know how many days it went, but they gave every single, not proceeds, not profit, every penny, and they gave $1.3 million to Maui, this is really just the beginning of it. Just the beginning of it. Joseph mentioned 9 police officers lost their homes. Yes, I mean, this is the amount of. I mean, Lahaina is no more. I'm still I haven't really wrapped my head. Heidi, it must be for you because you see it there. I mean, the housing disruption is going to be massive. The thousands of homes are gone, right? Not about tens of thousands, but thousands of homes are gone. Thousands of housing units are gone. How the market's going to, the recovery is going to be, I don't know. I'm speechless. I don't know if you want. Heidi, you're muted.
It's such an incredible loss. I mean, we're still digesting it. The focus really now on Maui is finding people that are missing. It still feels in emergency mode right now, but I think what people should know is, I mean, a lot of West Maui did not burn and is still okay. I mean, Kaanapali, Honolulu, Kahana, Kapalua, there's thousands of people living there on West Maui, which is just north of this Lahaina town, and they're still there. Most of Maui is completely fine. I was in Kihei the other day. Business is going along as normal. And I don't think this has been mentioned yet, but there's still 3 fires burning on Maui right now. They're mostly contained, but there was another fire in Kula. That's still burned over 200 acres. There's another fire in Olinda that's burned over 1,000 acres, and that's still burning. On Friday, I was in Kaanapali. A fire broke out in Kaanapali, and we were scared that, that was going to grow, but fortunately that fire just burned 1 acre and they were able to put it out. But yeah, it's still in emergency mode over there.
Yeah, we're still, like I said, the fires are still burning. It's like, it's again, I'm using this 9/11 analogy. It's like, look, the buildings are still smoldering. We have not yet gone through the rubble. Sue threw a comment here, Sue shared. Thank you, Sue. The ability to build anything else for the next few years just evaporates. I mean, that whole process is really going to be, mind-boggling.
Actually,
Melissa, go ahead, Ashliey. No, go ahead.
Heidi, this time of year, do you guys see a lot of fires on the west side? Or because I know on Oahu it's pretty common. Like, we have a fire that's happening right now, just Wahiwa below the pineapple fields, which is common every year around this time. Do you guys normally see fires this time of year?
We do, yeah. There's often they're generally small grass fires, but back in 2018, there was a pretty significant fire in Lahaina. There was a fire in 2019, and even earlier this year in Oluwalu, there was a small fire. I drove by it on the road, and they were trying to put it out. So I read an article that's partially attributing this to non-native grasses that grow super fast when it's really wet earlier in the year in the winter, and then they just dry out. So there's dry grass around. I mean, it's also, the wind was 80-mile-an-hour wind, blowing down all kinds of telephone poles. I have heard from people that were there that roofs were blowing off buildings and landing on power lines. Even the houses north of the Lahaina bypass that didn't burn down, a lot of them have severe wind damage. I mean, huge trees were falling down in Kaanapali, falling on trucks and cars. So, I mean, the wind it's a huge factor in this.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was thinking of. I think that's just such an important detail that people, not us here on this show, but the conspiracies of social media and stuff like that, the narratives that people are running with. I think it's just important to bring it back to, fires are really common this time of year, and they're usually pretty easily contained. And that point in time, we just had literally a hurricane off the coast and winds. Is that in a valley in Lahaina where it would funnel wind that way? Because I don't know of any other parts of Dylan during the hurricane coming through, because it was pretty far off the coast, right? It wasn't like it was right up against us, and yet Lahaina seemed to have these really 80-mile-per-hour winds. Did you guys experience high winds like that? Because we didn't on Oahu. I mean, in a couple areas in Honolulu between the buildings, I was walking that day after going to Merriman's, and I walked between the 2 buildings, and there was this gust of wind. It was really windy just in Waikiki, not so much in Kailua. and a little palm frond had come across the sidewalk, and I jumped over it, and the wind blew me into the road and pushed my whole body. So I do know that we did have strong gusts, but nothing like Maui, like Lahaina did.
It was just, well, it was just there. I mean, look, we had 80-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, and the funny part about, the strange part about the fire that, again, as you mentioned, Ashliey, that most people don't understand is, look, there was a time, and it wasn't too long ago, when there were fires going on all the time throughout Hawaii because we had cane fields and cane fires. And fires were intentionally set. So fires in Hawaii is nothing terribly new. This is a recurring thing. There's all kinds of kind of blame going around about, who could have, should have done what. But fires are not uncommon. And KH1 did a really good job with a timeline. They did a great job of kind of illustrating stuff. And Heidi, I don't know if you caught any of this, but they were like telling you that they were saying that the Lahaina fire was under control at something like 2:00 in the afternoon. It was like, okay, we got this. Let's evacuate people. We're going to shut some roads down. Everything kind of on an orderly basis. And 2 or 3 hours later, you've got this raging fire. So Heather, thank you, Heather. The wind makes a lot of difference. The biggest fire that came closest to us in Oregon was due to the wind spreading it so quickly. We had 80-mile-an-hour winds, gang. Not to mention. So all kinds of stuff. I wanted to bring out Travis. Thank you. Just got on. So glad Heidi is okay. Hey, folks, if you're on, share your thoughts to Heidi, because Heidi, we really appreciate. I didn't expect you to come on today. I'm really, really glad that you did, and I really can't imagine how difficult it is. And so I'm really, really glad that you're here, and I hope the rest of you can kind of join with me in thanking Heidi and sharing your aloha for Heidi, who's here with us. Let me catch up with a few things over here really quick. Pam, interesting interview with NPR and a historian. All the history is gone. Yes, he said no. Tell our history he said no. We can tell our history starting in schools. We are storytellers. We can rebuild the buildings, but our history is not lost. Nice turnaround. Sadly, the loss of life. Yeah, I mean, again, it's mind blowing that Lahaina is gone. We could talk about this later. I do want to talk about this. These opportunistic hearing reports of land developers calling victims lowballing offers to buy up the land. Governor Green trying to block that effort. Yes, I've got that. Melissa says Kahului needs to build affordable housing. A lot of open land. Well, we'll have to kind of see about that. Barbara says, Ashliey, so true about land contamination on Lahaina. Erode and go into the sea, not healthy for fish or man. Yes, indeed. Kinaya, to your point, I don't know if it could have made any difference, but I wish those sirens would have gone off. I watched the press conferences. I know people were waiting to be told to leave. I mean, there's always all kinds of sides to that story. Kinaya, one thing I heard, one thing I read in reading the press stories was that there was one person who mentions yeah, we thought about the sirens, but if we did the sirens, what you're told when you hear the sirens is to run for the hills. Well, guess what's at the hills? Fires. So it's not always easy to kind of immediately kind of figure out what needs to be said. Dylan, did you want to say something?
Oh no, I was gonna bring that up. I mean, this is a thing that I think when you Monday morning quarterback something, especially a disaster like this, and if you've ever been in this type of situation, I mean, I can relate it to being in combat, right? Like you can look back on a situation and say, well, you should have done this, and you should have done that, and you should have done this. And it's easy to say that, but it's extremely unfair, right? Because especially on this siren issue, you can say that now, but when being born and raised here, you are taught when the sirens go off, you either go Mauka or you go to the 4th floor of a building if you're near the ocean, because since the tsunami will pass through the bottom of the building. And so if that's something that you've condition the public to believe, and that's what you've kind of trained them to do for the entire life, and then you have a fire coming from Mauka, right? I would be, if I'm in that position, I would be very conflicted on what to do, right? It's not an easy decision to make at that point. And so that's one of those things where, looking back and pointing a finger is extremely unfair. Might it have made a difference? Maybe, maybe not. But at the time when you're under fire, literally, there's a lot of things to weigh. And I think in this case, things escalated extremely quickly, beyond what anybody expected. Just like to your point, where one hour they're saying it's under control, and 2 hours later the whole entire town is on fire. So there's a lot of that going on, and I think we just got to give everybody grace and understanding that when you're in that situation, and you've never thought through that situation. And this is a lesson learned for my family, is I try and think of myself as a prepared person. You know, I like to think that if it all went to hell, I would be somewhat prepared to survive. And we had a discussion the other night over dinner about, if we lost everything, what would we do, right? I mean, you never really think about that, right? You never like mentally prepare for that, or what do you do if there's a fire coming? And this is a lesson learned and a takeaway for the rest of us that are still, you know, here to have the privilege to kind of think that through and actually talk about and discuss it with our families, because we live just such a comfortable life a lot of times, and we never have to think about worst case scenario. And you don't want to focus on it every day, but it goes back to like the simple discussion that you're encouraged to have with your kids when they're like in kindergarten or sixth, you know, when they're 5 or 6 years old, is, if there's a fire in your house, what do you do? And most of us don't have that conversation because we think it's never going to happen, right? But that's tragically how a lot of times, you know, family members are lost in just a simple house fire. Imagine if your whole entire town is on fire. It's not something that you've ever discussed or talked about. And you know, that was one of the tragic things. I was interested about your I haven't seen that stat about, you know, the folks that have been lost for over 70, but I'm also hearing there's going to be a lot of children because they left. The wind was so bad, the weather was so bad, they let kids out of school early that day, and parents were still at work, right? Parents weren't there to get them out. So I think those numbers are going to tragically rise, and you know, we've got no idea what that looks like yet until, you know, all the rubble's been gone through.
You know,
friends.
Go ahead.
My other half's friend's family owns the morgue that a lot of the children are going to, and they said they're mostly getting children, and going to work is almost an impossible task at this point.
I mean, when I you know, to all your points, when I had heard that too, Dylan, that a lot of the children were home, and so home alone, and it's like, oh my God, that is, speechless. I want to pop in. Thank you, Patrick. Aloha, everyone. I'm glad I was able to watching your broadcast today from Raleigh, North Carolina. Thank you, Heidi. I hope you've been safe. Mahalo. Yeah, I'm glad that we're all glad that Heidi is safe, for sure. The children part was like, hey, really quick, let's just kind of touch on this. I don't think it needs to be said too much because I think we pretty much everyone kind of knows what's going on here, which is the sort of the what caused it. I don't think that they have a definitive answer. There is a high suspicion that it was a down power line sparking utility pole, a down utility pole. Sparking with dry grass. That probably was the thing. I think the big thing that we've touched on was the 80-mile-an-hour winds, and I think that really kind of rushed through. And you combine also the fact that the Lahaina is, you know, a historic, lots of old buildings, mostly wood. It was just, you know, dry wood. You know, super high winds that we haven't really had. Winds like this, really, these don't come here too often, if at all, and dry. Put that all together, and you've got really the issue. I don't think there's anything much to be said about that. And there's all, you know, again, there's all kinds of issues and all kinds of questions. If you guys want to say anything, just kind of jump right in. Go ahead, Dylan.
I think we should address the question about people trying to buy land in Lahaina, because I think that's
let's hit it.
An important perspective. I mean, I think to any normal thinking person, it's disgusting, and we can't believe that would actually be happening. But I have a couple of thoughts on that. You know, one is, I mean, imagine if it happened in your hometown, right? How would you feel? Like, before you make that call, before you make that offer, whatever people are doing, you got to put yourself in that community's shoes, right? So there's a press release that went out. If you're hearing of that, or you're getting solicitations, like, there's a number to report it to. Let somebody to know in the community, because it's unacceptable at this time. But there's a couple of other things to consider with this, and one is, you know, going back to giving grace and being thoughtful in this process. I had a friend send me a postcard that somebody had gotten from someone offering to buy their home and telling me, you know, I can't believe realtors are doing this. How can you stop them from doing this, right? And if you read the postcard, it wasn't from a realtor, right? So people are seeing things and assuming things about people and not actually checking and checking a source. And so when you're getting that or you're hearing rumors, like let's actually make sure what the information is and we're addressing it properly. And again, the finger pointing doesn't help, right? And there's a lot of people that I can just say this is our livelihood, right? This is what we do, and we completely respect the fact that we shouldn't be there should be none of this going on in Lahaina right now. But at the end of the day, there's still people that need to buy and sell homes in the state, right? There's still families that got to find housing. Some of them are going to come from Lahaina and they're in a position to buy. And don't condemn your friends who are in the real estate industry of just doing their job, right? We still got to feed our families too. So that's something that I've been talking to agents about and talking to community members about is we all have our role to play in society. And at some point, we still have to do that job, and we got to be careful about what that looks like. But it's don't be ashamed of that. Don't have any guilt, right? That and same thing I tell people in the community. Like I had a couple of my agents do a first time home buyer seminar 2 nights ago, and they were wondering if they should cancel it. And I said probably not. I mean, you got like 15 families that are signed up that are coming that want to learn how to buy a home for the first time. And yes, there's tragedy going on, but you also have a responsibility to help them. I mean, this is something they're going to need housing at some point. The world doesn't shut down because of stuff like this happening, and you should just continue do your job, hold education. It's a very beneficial thing for the community. It changes people's lives, and so I just told them don't feel guilty about it. I mean, these folks will be disappointed. They signed up weeks ago, and have been looking forward to this. And if they're still willing to come, you should still put it on, right? So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of different sides to this, and let's just again. Let's give each other grace in this time and try and keep the emotions, some perspective on our emotions.
Hey, look, I it's kind of funny. But everyone has come out with all kinds of emotions in all kinds of ways, and I caught some flack because I didn't come out soon enough and say something about Lahaina earlier. I didn't come out with a newsletter or an article right away, and I got a flack for that. Seeing as heartless. But I always try to kind of think about the other side of the story. And I think on one hand, we certainly, on one hand, it certainly we respond when we hear, oh, there's quote vultures, which is a characterization, but there's people that are trying to kind of lowball land offers, and that needs to be stopped. Sure. And there's also the idea of a moratorium on land sales. Sure. Makes sense, right? Okay, yeah, on one sense it makes sense. But let's think about the other side. What if you had a home in Lahaina, and now you just don't want anything to do with it? You don't want to be there. You don't want to move back. It's out of your life. You want to put it behind you, and you want to live in a home somewhere else. What do you do now? You can't. Essentially, if there's a moratorium on your property, you can't sell it. You can't. And so now you have nothing. You have zero. You've gone from something that you had to nothing whatsoever. So yes, from an emotional part, you want to say, look, let's put a moratorium. There's another side of this too. There was a question here and it's related. Aloha Supernova, how should Maui handle tourism long term? I can't imagine anybody going there for the foreseeable future, but moving forward, how to balance economic benefits and need for respect. Look, gang, let's just put it here really quickly. If we all stop buying homes on Maui, Heidi's out of a job. Right? If we all stop buying or selling homes on Maui, if everybody says, look, let's, I'm not going to go to Maui anymore. Let's all not go to, guess what that's going to do? That's going to depress the entire island. That's going to deprive nearly everyone of jobs. So we have to be careful. There's always an after effect. Dylan, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to address the moratorium issue. And I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't even know if it's legal or possible, right? From a constitutional standpoint. I mean, for government to impose that. But something that I have been bringing up is this is an opportunity for private industry to help solve a problem. And I think if we're really concerned about this being a situation where people are trying to take advantage of landowners, is title companies could easily just say we're not going to issue title insurance in the affected areas. And that would effectively stop you from, you could still buy a property, you couldn't get title insurance on it. But there's things like that we could do from a business private industry standpoint to create some consumer protection, right? Or can create some additional layers of ensuring that people don't get taken advantage of. But as we know, if you're in the industry, I've been reassuring people, it is, it's not easy to buy somebody's piece of property in Hawaii, right? I mean, there's a long process you have to go through. You got to go through the escrow and title process. You got to get it recorded by the Bureau of Conveyance. You can just show up to somebody and write them a check and now you take their deed and you own their property. It doesn't happen. So can people be taken advantage of? Absolutely. Is it easy or quick? It's not. And all the conspiracies about FEMA taking all the land back and all this other stuff, like that does not happen. And so it's not a credible thing to be worried about. But yeah, I mean, this is something that will be interesting how it plays out. But I don't think, like you said, a blanket moratorium on the transfer of property on Maui is not the answer, right? It's going to cause more unintended consequences than solutions. So.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, in terms of a seller, somebody that's just lost their property, I don't think you should make such a big financial decision without just sitting on a little bit. I don't think people should even be making a decision for 6 months on what they want to do. And then from the perspective of a buyer, I mean, buyers can't even access these areas. They are closed off. You can't even go to these properties. I mean, I don't know why somebody would want to buy something right now. And it really hits close to home, especially for people in Hawaii sensitive to outsiders taking their land. And it's just the wrong time. I mean, the fire is still burning right now. And I mentioned before, I mean, there's a lot of West Maui that still has a Lahaina address that is not burned. And I personally have listings with Lahaina addresses, and those areas are fine. So you really have to look at where the property is and what you're buying. And I really appreciate the question about tourism, because a lot of people are worried about just nobody coming to West Maui in the future. And tourism is a huge part of our economy there. So what is that going to do to the rest of the community and everybody's businesses and all the restaurants and people's employment on that side of the island? So, I mean, I certainly wouldn't go to West Maui right now as a visitor, but I mean, to tell people to go there never again, I don't think that's the right message either. And there's plenty of other places on Maui that are safe, that are functioning as normal. This is one town. It's very tragic. But the message shouldn't be never go to Maui again, because it's going to take time, but it absolutely will recover. I do believe that.
And just to piggyback on both, like, of what both of you guys said, I think it's not, people are gonna want to sell. They're not gonna want to go back there, and or they weren't there to begin with. And I think it was the timing. Ashes hadn't even settled remotely before people were trying to contact them. And a lot of them are local investors. I work with the investor community, and that's what they do. It's called bird dogging. You call distressed homeowners and you see if they're interested in selling. And I think that it just wasn't the right time. And I think that's why people were so up in arms about it. And then you also have, the commercial land on Front Street. That's a different group of people, reaching out to buy that. And I don't know, I've said it a couple of times, but I'm just really interested to see what transpires with the, soil testing of the grounds there, and if people are even going to be allowed to build and buy. So outside of just emotionally letting the dust settle and, some time to go by, to Heidi's point, like 6 months or so, also they are going to do soil testing for all of these properties. And are people even going to be able to rebuild in the foreseeable decade?
Yeah, that's a huge question, Ashliey. There's all kinds of things, all kinds of stories over here. So I want to grab. Let's grab a few more of the comments here. Charlie, what about the electric company? The electric should have been shut off in such high winds. I've seen videos of the grasses igniting from down wires. Again, I always try to, like Dylan says, and this is a comment actually that Tony made. Thank you. And I'm going to repeat this. Such a reminder of the coffee fire we had in Sonoma County, California, where many perished due to high winds and the fact that it started in the night. Dylan hit the nail on the head. Hindsight is 2020. So sad. Prayers to all the families. Hindsight is 2020. So, Charlie, the other side of the story on the electric company, it wasn't like there was nobody at the switch. Keep in mind, if you turn off the electric, you also turn off the water pumps. You turn off the water pumps, you can't pump water. So it's not always entirely obvious as to what is the right thing. It's easy to look on one side, but that's not a non-trivial thing.
I
Hindsight's
thought
not,
the electric was off. I mean, the electric was off all day. It went off at 5 a.m. and also there was barely any cell service. I mean, people couldn't call each other, couldn't text. And that made it even more scary, is not being able to connect with anybody. I don't know if the electric was on other places, but where I live up north, it was off since 5 a.m. Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
you go.
That's
right?
another good point on lesson learned and just situational awareness. We're so dependent on our phones and the internet nowadays that I bet there was people, in their house, on their phones playing a video game and weren't aware that like the houses were burning 2 blocks away, and that could have contributed to loss of life, right? Like we just have to be situationally aware and maybe go outside and look around sometimes. And this is a good example that, when this grid goes down, what do you do? How do you communicate? How do you make decisions? And, it's a good discussion for us to have with our families, no matter where you are, because we can all be faced with some type of disaster. And what do you do when your cell phone doesn't work? You're muted, Peter.
You're muted.
Thank you. I understand. Again, that's a great point. Sometimes you don't. We take so many things for granted about our modern world, and internet connectivity being one of them. There was a story I caught that a lot of the fiber lines were burned down completely, melted in the fire, which kind of cut off all kinds of connectivity. Let's catch up with a few of the comments over here. From Pam, emotions are raw. Now is not the time for major decisions. Yeah, exactly. And I totally agree. You certainly wouldn't want to be doing that. And moratorium can have positive, but also negative effects. And we have to make a choice. And that's, I think, a big part of it. Thank you, Stan. Good to see you again. Joseph, Hawaiian Airlines have been struggling before the fire. Now with less visitors, it will affect Hawaiian Airlines. Just the airline alone is tons of jobs lost for locals. I mean, this is the part we have to balance. There has to be a balance between, we do have to move forward. Life does have to go on. We can't just stop everything. It's not realistic to even think that. We do have to go on, but we have to move on with compassion and with care. And I'm confident of the compassion and care. I mean, the Hawaii, the Aloha spirit is well and good in Hawaii. Nancy, this has been a fabulous conversation, so level-headed, but I came in late and don't know who you all are. Nancy, you're gonna have to play back. This is gonna be on demand. You're gonna play that back. But welcome. We're glad that you're here. We do the show every other week. The fire has been caused by satellite beams last night. Well, maybe we'll have to kind of see how that goes. There's all kinds of conspiracy theories. Let's talk about the let's see. I think we've come into a bunch of stuff. Let's kind of move us on to talk about the. So we've got 7 minutes left. Okay. Maybe we'd chat a little bit about the help. Gang, this is throw in any final comments that you have. Let us know. We're going to end this show pretty much on time. And it's going to end in 7 minutes. We're glad that you're here. Let's kind of shift into the help stories here, and kind of what's going on, the things that you've heard. I think one thing that I had heard through a series of communications was the natural, the local way of helping out. There was a landing place that some of the local folks had found, which landed in a Hawaiian homelands area, which is somewhat like protective area. And they set up a train where boats would come near the shore. This was not like official stuff. In fact, they were chased out by the authorities from other places. So what they did to improvise is they found this one spot where they could land safely. They would bring in boats. Off-duty lifeguards would go out, meet the boats, grab all the gear, bring the gear on board, and the boat would take off. And they just had a continual train of this kind of going on. There may be some images that you folks have found about this, but if you have, kind of pop that on, we'd like to see it. But I think there was one. That's one of the stories. There's countless stories. And if you guys have any stories you want to talk about with the help issues, where do we go from here? How do we pull ourselves out of this? I'd like to kind of hear you guys share if there's anything that you'd like to share. Heidi, I don't know if you're catching anything on your end. I mean, your boots on the ground more than anybody.
Well, I mean, one of the greatest needs immediately is housing all these people, and a lot of the hotels have stepped up and are providing temporary rooms for people. And Dylan mentioned this, it's through the Hawaii Realtors Association. I think it's called Maui Kokua. And maybe, Peter, you could share the link, but there's a place where you could donate housing or find housing if you're in need. Airbnb.org is also doing something where they'll assist people who want to offer housing for people in need and actually provide the owner of the property insurance for something like this if they want to donate. So anyway, there's lots of positive things going on. I mean, the concern is people can't live in the Hyatt for the next 3 years. I mean, it's great for now, but it's more that long-term need.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. I appreciate that. I have posted mauikokua.com, and I've also reposted the page from the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. This has become in my view, a kind of authoritative site to kind of help you launch out and find the kind of sites that you want to find. Thank you, Pam, for your kind words here. Peter, thank you for letting us know on this site that Heidi was safe last week. Heidi, happy you are here today, sending so much aloha. Yes, it is. We're really happy that Heidi, it's an extraordinary effort that you made to be a part of this. Anything else on the Kokua side? Dylan, go ahead.
Oh no, I totally echo what Heidi said about housing. That's a big one, and you know, I'm kind of struggling with the strategy on this, but I think there's a way for us to facilitate. You know, if you have an investment property in Hawaii and you were thinking about selling, or you know, may want to give it up or maybe convert it into a rental, or on the sales side, you know, there's a way. We can't discriminate based on protected classes, but a displaced family is not a protected class, right? So if you want to ensure that your home is sold to somebody, you know, there's a way we can facilitate that on the ground, because a lot of us have so many connections with people that may have been looking to become a homeowner, or just at this point need to relocate. You know, that's something that we can think about doing in the future. And so that's one way you can help, you know, it directly and indirectly is, you know, if you were going to sell to a family that needs it, you know, versus trying to get highest and best market value. And that's a definitely an immediate need. That's going to be the biggest need probably over the next 12 months. And then the other thing is, I personally have been given to people directly, but through Venmo. I mean, there's a lot of great charities out there, but you know, if you want to affect a family directly, there's a lot of ways that we can do that. And there's a lot of us that can help you do that. I'm not recommending you do it, but I mean, to me, I'd rather get, you know, money in the hands of somebody that needs to buy clothes for their kids versus a big organization that I have no idea when that's gonna actually touch a family on the ground. So something to consider. I mean, I'm not discrediting any of the big organizations, but in a time like this, there are families that, you know, need money now, and a few $100 can make a very big difference in their life. So.
Yeah, I can add a little bit more. Sorry, Peter. Real fast, I know we have 2 minutes. So my partner and I, we have that space in Hawaii Kai next to Roy's facing Diamond Head called Gather Co-work. It's a co-working space. And my partner, she owns Oak and Pine Society. It's a female entrepreneur group. Right now, that society, we have Amazon wish lists with specific Maui residents on things that they need, particularly with the correct size clothing, with laptops, with the phones and everything that they need. So if you want to send me a message, I can get you in contact with those lists if you want to donate specific items. And then also, a lot of these people need access to computers and get job applications and just start rebuilding their life. So we're offering free co-working to anybody who is the Lahaina residents that needed to relocate. If they're on Oahu, they can work in our co-working space for free, and also partnered with Geeky Mama Studios and Kuhuli in Maui as well, so that they can do co-working there and get access to computers and internet. And then lastly, of that society, we have a lot of health and wellness focused individuals who focus on coaching and psychology and stuff like that. We have people who are donating their services just to help people with mental health and coaching them back into the workforce or into the life force rather. So if you know anybody in need, you can reach out and we can get them connected and plugged in.
Thank you, Ashliey. That's very kind and generous of you all to do that. Hopefully I'm still thinking through about how I've directly given. I've done my part, but I want to do more and I'm trying to figure out how to leverage this channel. Maybe if you guys got some ideas of how this channel could be leveraged and all the things that livinginhawaii.com has done. Clearly, again, I see this. Well, let's move on. I see this as a 9/11 event in terms of it's going to really shift everything. Everything is going to be everything. Hawaii will never be the same, of course, but things are going to change in a way that we can't yet comprehend. Ashliey, go ahead.
One more thing that my team is doing, I forgot to mention too, is those lists that the investors are pulling to contact those homeowners to see if they're interested in selling. We've pulled those lists as well. And we've slowly but surely started contacting those people just to see if they need help contacting their mortgage company or their insurance companies, or help them facilitate anything that they may need. Because right now they just don't maybe know how to connect the pieces and don't know how to do that. Or we have a checklist that we formed of things to do, people to contact, questions to ask. Can they defer if they have mortgages? Can they defer them? What's that going to look like? So we also are here to help, any of the residents or homeowners there that just are feeling a little lost and would love to have someone just in their corner. We're contacting mortgage companies and insurance companies on their behalf as well.
Thank you, Ashliey. Let's move this on. I want to kind of get, we need to wrap this up. We're running a little bit over time, although it's okay. Joseph, thank you guys for the weekly updates. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Sherry Lynn, the region would do best if they came together in one accord, have a spokesperson speak for all, let none slip through the cracks. Sherry Lynn, I don't know if it's possible for one person to speak for all. I think we all have to speak and share and give everyone a forum to share their thoughts. Why don't we do this, gang? Let's move into our closing thoughts part of the show. Heidi, if it's okay with you, I'd like you to close it. I'm going to have everyone kind of speak first. Folks, we have some closing thoughts. Those of you who are show regulars know what this is. This is a part of you to share kind of a closing thought, or a motivational thought. Why don't we go with Ashliey? Why don't we go with Ashliey and then Dylan, then I'll go, and then Heidi, you close it up for us. So Ashliey, why don't you share with us what's your motivational thought today, and what does it mean to you?
We don't heal in isolation, but in community. I just think under the current circumstances, it's simple and sweet to the point, something that Hawaii is incredibly good at doing.
Excellent, and well said. It is really all about commuting. Sherry Lynn agrees. Yes, come into focus together, but work as a team. 100% agreed. Dylan, what's yours?
Yeah, another simple one, just for the times. I think this is a good thing to keep in mind, whether it's tragic times or good times. If you always have the mindset of the best days are ahead, it's the best way to move forward. There's never an easy way to move forward after this, but I truly believe the best days for Maui are ahead of us, and that's no matter what it is, good or bad. I try and keep that top of mind.
Thank you, Dylan. I think that's going to be an extraordinarily important attitude to keep up, is that our best days are ahead of us. And I think if everyone, as we all pull together and see a bright future for whatever the new Lahaina is going to be, whatever the reimagined Lahaina is going to be, that is, I think, the right attitude. I always have a proverb, but today I'm going to shift and do a Psalms 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult. And that was a meaningful, somewhat almost self-explanatory part to me. And we're going to, as we close up over here, I want to again really thank you, Heidi, for coming today. I think it was extraordinarily difficult, and I know everyone's really glad that you're safe. Everyone's really happy to see you here today, and I'm really glad that you're here. And we're going to continue, of course, to keep everyone in our prayers. Barbara, prayers with you for all dear people and all their Maui. Aloha. Thank you, Barbara. That is perfect timing. Heidi, so give us your closing thought, Heidi, and close it up for us.
We may not be able to alter the experience of what happened to us, but sunshine eventually casts aside even the gloomiest days. If we're willing to ride it out, the prospect of betterment always returns.
Thank you.
We need to feel hopeful right now. I mean, we can't change what happened, but we need to have faith and be hopeful and support each other.
Faith and be hopeful and support each other. Indeed. Thank you, Sherry Lynn. Psalm 33:6 is for all of Hawaii. Yes, indeed, it certainly is. All right, gang, let's wrap up. I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for being a part of this. I hope this helped you. If you came in late, this is you could just kind of play back and see the beginning of it. I think this was a great discussion. I didn't know which way that this was going to go, but I'm really happy of the way it did go. I hope there was some closure. I hope there was some healing that you all had a chance to experience and to share. Why don't we kind of go counterclockwise? Say goodbye. I'm going to say goodbye. Aloha, everyone. We're going to see you in 2 weeks. Ashliey, then Dylan, and then Heidi. Go.
Prayers for Lahaina residents. Thank you, Heidi, for joining us today. Everyone, have a blessed weekend.
Yeah, thanks everybody for your support and love. I mean, it doesn't go unnoticed. Really appreciate it.
Aloha, everybody. Just take care, be safe, and thank you for your love and support.
All right, everyone. You all take care. Prayer and healing. Aloha for Lahaina. Aloha.